Why is it that so many of us, despite working hard, wishing deeply, even praying for change, still don't get what we truly want? Why does life seem to keep us circling around the same obstacles, the same disappointments, the same patterns, like a song stuck on repeat? Maybe the question isn't about how badly we want something, but about what inside us is quietly blocking the way. Carl Jung once said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." What if the very key to unlocking what we desire most isn't in chasing positivity, but in facing the parts of ourselves we've tried to hide, deny, or bury? Today, we're not just talking about dreams or goals. We're peeling back the layers to touch something deeper, the shadow, that hidden realm inside each of us where old wounds, fears, and unclaimed power reside. For most of us, the shadow feels like an enemy, the angry outburst, the jealousy, the shame, the secret envy. But what if, instead of being our downfall, the shadow is actually holding the treasures we need to step into our fullest lives? Jung called this the process of individuation, the journey of becoming whole, not by rejecting the dark, but by integrating it. So let's ask the harder question. What would happen if instead of running from our darkness, we turned toward it? If instead of pretending to be only light, only good, only acceptable, we dared to see ourselves as we truly are, messy, complex, luminous, and yes, shadowed too? Maybe then, the things we long for, love, success, freedom, creativity, would no longer slip through our fingers. Maybe they would meet us in the open, because we would finally be ready to receive them, whole rather than divided. This isn't an easy path. Facing your dark side requires courage, honesty, and compassion. But as Jung taught, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The question is, are you willing to step into the darkness, not to lose yourself, but to find the strength that's been waiting there all along? Let's begin with the roots. Long before self-help books, vision boards, or motivational talks, humans instinctively understood that the psyche carried two faces, the one shown to the tribe and the one kept hidden in silence. In Jung's terms, these are the persona and the shadow. The persona is the mask, the version of ourselves polished enough to be accepted by others. The shadow is everything left out. The anger, the envy, the ambition, the hunger, the impulses we were told were too much. But here's the paradox. Often what we exile into the shadow holds the very energy we need to create the life we crave. Think about it. How many times have you stopped yourself from speaking up because you didn't want to appear arrogant? How often have you swallowed your anger because you feared rejection? How many dreams have you dismissed because a quiet voice inside whispered, "Who do you think you are?" These disowned parts don't disappear. They linger in the unconscious, shaping our choices from behind the curtain. Jung warned that, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. This is why facing your dark side is not about becoming negative, but about reclaiming what you once disowned. The aggression you buried? It might become the courage you need to set boundaries. The envy you deny? It may reveal what your soul is secretly longing to create. The fear you suppress? It may hold the seed of your deepest wisdom. By entering the shadow with compassion, you begin to gather back your scattered power. And here's the beauty. When you dare to face the parts of yourself you once rejected, you stop needing the world to mirror back your worth. You become less controlled by what others think, less trapped by unconscious patterns. You start to move toward what you want, not from desperation, but from alignment. In the dance of light and dark, you finally step into wholeness. To face the shadow is to enter sacred territory. It is not about wrestling with demons, but about recognizing that the so-called demons are often fragments of your own soul, long exiled and waiting to be welcomed home. Jung believed that the shadow, when ignored, leaks into the world through projection. That's why we so easily judge in others what we cannot face in ourselves. The friend whose confidence irritates us? Perhaps she reflects our own buried desire to shine. The colleague whose ambition makes us uncomfortable? Maybe he mirrors the fire we've been too afraid to ignite. When we deny the shadow, we scatter our power outward. We live as if pieces of us belong to everyone else. But when we turn inward and say, "This too is me," we begin the work of integration. Jung described this as a necessary confrontation, not a battle of good versus evil, but a dialogue between what we show and what we hide. The shadow is not meant to be destroyed. It is meant to be understood, held, and transformed. Imagine it this way. The shadow is a locked chest at the bottom of your psyche. At first glance, it looks ominous, covered in dust and cobwebs, marked with warnings, "Do not open." But if you dare to lift the lid, you may find not only old pain but also gold, creativity, power, vitality, and truth. The very energy that can propel you toward what you've always wanted has been waiting there all along. And here's the deeper truth. Facing your dark side is not just about you. It reshapes how you move in the world, how you love, how you create, how you lead. Every time you bring light into your own shadow, you become less reactive, less bound by fear, and more rooted in authenticity. You stop chasing approval and start moving with clarity. You stop waiting for permission and begin shaping reality with intention. This is why so many people never truly get what they want. Not because they don't deserve it, but because they haven't yet reclaimed the hidden parts of themselves that carry the keys. Desire, such a charged word. We're taught to want, but also to be ashamed of wanting too much. To dream, but not to seem greedy. To reach, but only within acceptable limits. And so many of us water down our desires until they no longer feel alive. But here's the truth. What you want most is often directly connected to your shadow. The bigger the dream, the deeper the shadow work required to claim it. Why? Because desire awakens everything in you. Not just the light, but the fears, doubts, and wounds that stand in the way. Say you want love. Instantly, your shadow will remind you of heartbreak, of rejection, of unworthiness. Say you want success. The shadow might rise with voices of guilt, fear of failure, or even fear of your own power. Jung called this the confrontation with the unconscious. The shadow does not block your path out of cruelty. It appears because it is the path. Here's the paradox. The very qualities you reject in yourself may be the missing fuel for your desires. The assertiveness you buried? That's the fire you need to demand what you're worth. The envy you ignored? It points toward your own neglected dreams. The anger you suppressed? It's the raw energy to break through barriers. When you reclaim these exiled parts, desire transforms from a fragile wish into a force of creation. And here's where manifestation becomes real. Not through endless affirmations or pretending everything is light, but by uniting both light and shadow into a single current of power. When you allow yourself to want fully, with all the fear, anger, and hunger that comes with it, you step into authenticity. And from authenticity, creation flows. Carl Jung said, "I'd rather be whole than good." This is the essence of shadow work and desire. To stop trying to be only good, and instead to be fully yourself, fierce, flawed, radiant, and real. Because only then can you hold the weight of your own deepest wants. If the shadow holds such power, why do so many of us run from it? The answer is simple: fear. Not fear of monsters outside us, but fear of the parts of ourselves we've labeled as unacceptable. Jung noted that the shadow is often experienced as shame, that heavy, silencing force that makes us turn away from our own reflection. Facing your dark side is terrifying, not because it will destroy you, but because it threatens the identity you've built to feel safe. Think about it. From childhood, we learned which behaviors brought love and which brought rejection. We learned that being polite was praised, while being angry was punished. That being helpful earned approval, while being ambitious was seen as selfish. Slowly, piece by piece, we carved away parts of ourselves to fit the mold. The mask we wear today, the persona, was built on these bargains. To face the shadow is to question that mask, to risk discovering that who you really are may not align with who you were taught to be. And that's why resistance shows up. The ego whispers, "Don't go there. Don't open that box. It's dangerous." But the real danger isn't in facing the shadow. The real danger is in ignoring it. Because what we suppress doesn't disappear, it leaks out sideways. In sudden anger we can't explain. In jealousy that poisons relationships. In procrastination that sabotages dreams. Jung called this shadow possession. When we don't own our shadow, it owns us. The turning point comes when you realize that resistance is not a sign to stop, but a sign that you're close to truth. The discomfort you feel when confronting your shadow is proof that something long buried is rising to the surface. Instead of running, you can breathe, soften, and stay. Because on the other side of that resistance lies freedom. Freedom to choose consciously rather than unconsciously. And here's the secret. The shadow is never as terrifying as the mind imagines. Once seen, it loses its grip. Once welcomed, it begins to serve you instead of sabotage you. What if the shadow isn't an enemy at all, but the most loyal ally you never knew you had? Jung often hinted that within the darkness lies not just danger, but potential. The shadow is raw energy, untamed, unpolished, but powerful. And when you stop pushing it away, you discover that this same force can propel you toward the very life you dream of. Think about the qualities you admire most in others: boldness, creativity, charisma, authority. Chances are, these qualities also live in your shadow. You see them shining in others because you have not yet fully claimed them in yourself. This is projection, the psyche's way of showing you your own hidden gold. Jung once wrote, "The gold is in the dark." What he meant is that the treasures we seek often come disguised as flaws, impulses, or fears. Take anger, for example. Left unconscious, it can burn bridges. But when owned and integrated, anger transforms into assertiveness, boundary setting, and passion. Envy, too, can eat you alive, but if you listen closely, it reveals what your soul longs to create. Even fear, when embraced, sharpens intuition and teaches courage. These are not enemies, they are guides. The moment you stop rejecting these parts and start collaborating with them, something shifts. You stop feeling split in two. You no longer waste energy keeping pieces of yourself locked away. Instead, that energy flows into creation, into action, into movement toward your deepest desires. The shadow becomes fuel, not a chain. This is the alchemy of shadow work, turning what once felt like poison into medicine, what once felt like weakness into strength. And when you begin to live this way, you realize something extraordinary, that the life you want isn't given to you from the outside. It emerges from within, from the union of your light and your dark. When you embrace your shadow, it doesn't just transform your inner world, it reshapes how you move through every relationship. Because let's be honest, so much of our struggle with others comes from the parts of ourselves we haven't yet faced. We get triggered, we project, we blame, we cling, all because the shadow is pulling strings behind the scenes. Jung explained that the unconscious seeks to be made conscious, often through encounters with others. This is why relationships are such powerful mirrors. The partner who irritates you, the friend who stirs jealousy, the colleague who sparks competition. Each one is showing you a fragment of your own unclaimed self. The more you deny your shadow, the more you will experience it through conflict and projection. But here's the miracle. Once you begin to integrate your shadow, the way you relate changes. Instead of expecting others to carry your darkness for you, you carry it yourself. Instead of demanding that others heal your wounds, you tend to them with awareness. Suddenly, relationships feel lighter, freer, more authentic. You no longer need people to complete you or validate you. You meet them from wholeness. And this is where true connection begins. Jung envisioned what he called the Konjunktio, the sacred union, not as two halves merging into one, but as two whole beings choosing each other from a place of freedom. When you face your own dark side, you stop unconsciously using others to fill the void. You can stand in your fullness and invite them to stand in theirs. This is love not based on fear or need, but on truth. And beyond romantic relationships, this shift touches everything: friendships, family bonds, even the way you interact with society. Because the less you project your shadow, the less you need enemies, scapegoats, or drama to carry it for you. You walk lighter, you see others more clearly, and you create space for deeper, more conscious connections. Something magical happens when the shadow is no longer denied. Creativity begins to flow. Jung often turned to art, drawing, and imagination as tools for meeting the unconscious. He believed that within the shadow lived archetypal forces, wild, ancient energies that, when freed, give rise to extraordinary self-expression. And maybe that's why so many of the world's greatest artists, writers, and thinkers have walked through their darkness before touching brilliance. Think of it this way. The shadow is like a locked studio inside your psyche. For years, you've kept the door shut, afraid of the chaos that might spill out. But when you finally dare to open it, you discover not only pain, but also color, music, stories, and visions waiting to be born. The very emotions you once tried to suppress, grief, anger, longing, fear, become the paint on your canvas, the words on your page, the fuel behind your purpose. Carl Jung said, "The shadow is a tight passage, a narrow door, whose painful constriction no one is spared who goes down to the deep well." Yet he also knew that what lies beyond that door is not death, but life more abundant. Facing your shadow awakens your voice, your originality, your authentic spark. Instead of mimicking what others expect, you create from the raw truth of your being. And here's the hidden gift. When you integrate the shadow, you stop censoring yourself. You stop worrying about being too much or not enough. You speak, act, and create from a place of wholeness. And that authenticity is magnetic. It draws opportunities, relationships, and experiences that resonate with your true self, not the mask you once wore. This is why shadow work is not just about healing wounds. It's about unleashing potential. The life you want, the love, the success, the freedom, the joy, requires your full self, not a half-lit version. By opening the door to your shadow, you open the door to your destiny. At its deepest level, facing the shadow isn't just about success or relationships. It's about awakening. Because when you dare to see the darkness within, you also open yourself to the vastness beyond. Jung believed that the shadow was not only a personal phenomenon, but also a gateway into the collective unconscious, the vast river of archetypes and symbols that connects all of humanity. To face your shadow, then, is to step into a larger mystery, the soul's journey toward wholeness. Spiritual traditions across the world echo this. In myth, the hero always ventures into the underworld before returning with wisdom. In alchemy, the base material must go through darkness and fire before transforming into gold. And in Jung's view, individuation, the process of becoming your true self, requires this descent into shadow. It is not a detour, it is the path. Here's the paradox. The shadow often hides what is most sacred, the longing for meaning disguised as despair, the seed of compassion hidden inside pain, the call to freedom buried beneath fear. When you lean into the darkness instead of fleeing it, you discover not emptiness but depth. You realize that your life is not random, that even your struggles are part of a larger unfolding. Carl Jung once said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." This is the essence of shadow work as a spiritual practice. To expand upward into light, you must also sink downward into shadow. To claim your highest self, you must also embrace your lowest. The union of these opposites is what makes you whole. And when that union happens, life itself begins to feel different. You stop chasing meaning as if it were outside you. You start to sense that meaning is already woven into your being, waiting to be revealed. The shadow, once feared, becomes a guide, leading you not into darkness forever, but into a deeper light than you've ever known. So here we are, at the edge of the journey. We began with a question: why don't we always get what we want? And we discovered that the answer is not out there in luck, in fate, or in the stars. It is within, in the shadow we often fear to face. Carl Jung showed us that the shadow is not an enemy but a mirror, a keeper of keys, a hidden ally holding the very power we need to create a life of truth and wholeness. When you dare to turn toward your darkness, to face your envy, your anger, your fear, your wounds, you do not become weaker. You become whole. You reclaim the gold that was waiting in the dark. And slowly, you stop living split in half. You stop chasing dreams with only part of your energy. You bring all of yourself to the table, and suddenly, the life you've longed for begins to rise up to meet you. This is not easy work. Jung warned us, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. But he also showed us that the pain is not punishment, it is initiation. Every step into the shadow is a step into your own becoming. Every confrontation with fear is an invitation to power. Every moment of honesty with yourself is a moment of liberation. And maybe that's the truth you needed to hear today. You are not broken, you are not lacking. You are already whole. It's just that pieces of you have been hidden, waiting in the dark for your return. Facing your shadow is the homecoming. It is the path to freedom, to love, to purpose, to the life you want and deserve. So ask yourself now, what part of me have I been running from? What would happen if I turned around and faced it? Maybe, just maybe, everything you've been seeking begins there. If this journey spoke to you, if it stirred something inside you, stay connected. Let this not be the end, but the beginning. Because your shadow is not here to haunt you. It is here to guide you. And when you walk with it, side by side, you will discover that what you want has been within reach all along. If this message touched something inside you, if it opened a doorway into new ways of seeing yourself and your journey, let's keep walking this path together. Every like, every repost, every subscription is not just a button you press. It's a signal to the world that these conversations matter, that shadow and light deserve to be honored equally. By sharing this, you might be giving someone else the exact words they've been waiting to hear, the reminder that they are not alone, that their darkness holds treasure too. And when you subscribe, you join a growing circle of seekers, dreamers, and builders of a more conscious world. So if your heart is saying yes, let it be known. Like this video, share it forward, and subscribe. Together we are not just consuming content. We are creating a ripple of awareness, healing, and wholeness. And who knows, the simple act of pressing share could become the spark that lights someone else's path. Until next time, keep walking bravely into your wholeness. The shadow is not against you. It is your secret ally.